Good morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from ePart Trade, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, PIC, Feria Racing Components, and Fifth Third Bank Motorsports. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of ePart Trade, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 455, and we're going to be talking with Boss Tables. With me this morning are Judy Kin, the co-founder of ePart Trade, and our wonderful host, Mr. Brad Giddy. Judy?
Thank you, Francisque, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I admire Boss Tables for a couple reasons here, because they're family owned and they're a small entrepreneurial company, and that is the heart of our industry. So what that means to me is that they give good personal service and good relationships with their customers. So, Brad?
Well, thank you very much, Judy. Thank you, Francisque, and certainly looking forward to chatting with a homegrown company, really, and one that is certainly doing some big things in the industry for sure. We'll talk to you guys here shortly, so really appreciate everything that ePart Trade does every single week, and absolutely looking forward to today's webinar. As a reminder, as always, if you have a question at any point during this webinar, please feel free to type it into the chat. We'd love to know what you want to know. This is just like standing right in front of someone at a trade show and asking the questions you want to ask. And you can see our two guests here, Travis Schluter, the owner of Boss Tables, and Chris Vroom with Sales and Marketing. Gentlemen, welcome. I hope y'all are doing well today.
Yeah, doing very well. How are you?
Awesome. Fantastic. First of all, I love the backdrop. I love where you guys are standing. It's really cool to see the shop back there with everything. And you just simply have a great story. So, Travis, let me start with you, and let's talk about Boss Tables and exactly what you guys do.
Yeah, so Boss Tables, we're a manufacturer of light industrial to heavy industrial CNC plasma tables. We cover the market up and until, heavy industrial plate work, oxy-fuel cutting. We do CNC routers as well, pipe cutting, high definition cutting. So we kind of cover, the entire market as far as that goes with plasma. So,
well, you have a great history. Let's talk about how Boss Tables got started.
Sure, yeah, you bet. So I was actually a power lineman, and I was traveling over the country doing that. And basically, I built one in my garage, and I was just fascinated at how it actually worked. And it was amazing that it did actually work, I guess, because I had no idea what I was doing. So from there, we actually purchased a car dealership. I got off the road, and then my brother and I started running the dealership, got that turned around, turned that into a good, viable business. And then there was a building behind the dealership that we felt like we had to purchase. So we ended up acquiring that building, and then we had no idea what we were going to do with this building, but we had to make payments. And we we're like, well, hell, these are really cool. So we just bought enough parts to build like 10 of them. Started from there. We started with a different CNC controller. We actually moved away from that company. Got partnered with another company called Halo out of Oklahoma. They're a great company. And then we progressed and got a relationship with FlashCut. And now for the heavy industrial market, including machining and multi-headed beveling and multi-oxy fuel, we have a partnership with ATEC now, and they're out of Arkansas. So we're continuing to progress. We're always moving, and we're never stopping with R&D, and we just keep moving forward. So we've grown. We initially started in Decorah, Iowa. We then moved to Kelmer, Iowa, which is about 10 miles south. Purchased an old factory. We never thought we'd outgrow it, and because that's a 36,000 square foot building, and turns out we outgrew it within a year. So then we put up another building, and then hopefully by the end of this year, we'll actually be building another building. So we're continuing to push exceptionally hard. So,
wow, that's incredible. And look, obviously, growth like that is certainly thanks to the products that you make, the service that you provide, and everything that you're doing right here in the middle of America's heartland, which is wonderful. Chris, let me ask you, let's talk about Boss Tables, your typical customer, and, maybe even as it relates to the racing community, if you would.
Yeah, well, we have a wide range of customers. It can be anywhere from just a guy in his garage just wants to make some custom signs for the neighborhood, and then we go right up to big companies that are running huge production And then with the racing industry, you know, you can make roll bars, Nerf bars, bumpers, gussets of all kinds, motor mounts. We have one customer that makes clutch plates with it. So, you know, it is very valuable in the racing industry, but the customers are anywhere from a local mom and pop all the way up to major corporations. So that's why we do light industrial up to heavy industrial machines.
Well, and a lot of our customers too, they start off as light industrial and then progress into, you know, a full blown, you know, fab shop or, you know, an actual manufacturing company. And, you know, we've actually grown with a lot of our customers from, you know, their initial startup where we supply their first little machine. And now they're buying, you know, 10 by 30 foot machines with multi-processes on it and everything. So it's kind of neat to watch our, you know, our customers grow as well. And, you know, we would eventually like to progress into lasers as well, but that'll be a few years down the pipe. So, but we're going to get there.
Oh, that's really cool. And really looking at the product line from, you know, just the MVP table to the HD Elite and everything that you have in between. I mean, it truly is a wide customer base, whether you're a big manufacturing facility or like you were saying, you know, someone wants to make their own race car parts in their garage. I mean, you pretty much cover the gamut, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, for sure. What does an MVP start at?
Like 17,000, a little over $17,000. So you can get into it fairly cheap, you know, like you said, like $17,000, you know, with your power unit, you add another, you know, depending on what size you want, $2,000 to $9,000. And then you can go all the way up to our, you know, the HD Elites where you're in the six figures, you know, so it can go any way. It all depends on what the shop's doing. You know, when I talk to a lot of customers on the phone or potential customers, you know, the biggest thing with the money, you know, it's a big purchase. So a lot of times the customers call in and they don't really know what they're going to use it for. And I always tell them, listen, once you have this thing sitting in your garage or your shop, people find out about it, they come knocking. So you'll be able to make money with it right off the bat.
I was going to say
Well,
that sounds like a good
Go ahead.
investment, actually. That, to me, that sounds like a huge money saver if we're talking about getting into an entry level for $16,000 or $17,000 with the parts you can make versus the parts you buy, and then you control what you're making, which is even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of the times it's actually controlling the lead times. You know, people will need things now, and if they have to wait 2 or 3 weeks, well, that throws a wrench into everything. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. And look, I think all of us throughout the world, and especially in the racing community, have dealt with that supply shortages, whatever it might be, especially if you want to do something custom. And we know a lot of people really want that and to be able to do that yourself. And really, what is a quick learning process in a pretty simple way. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about CNC plasma, first of all, the technology involved in all of that. What can you tell us, Travis?
yeah, you bet. So CNC stands for computer numeric control. You have to run through 3 different processes. So you draw your part. Our software, whatever, you know, whether it's ATEC, FlashCut, or Halo, you can draw right on the machine, and that's called CAD, computer aided drafting. So you essentially draw your part as a vector image, and then you import it, or within the same program, move it into what's called CAM, which is computer aided manufacturing. So what that does is that you've got your part, and CAM, computer aided manufacturing, it creates the toolpath, and then you essentially take that G code, which is the commands for the machine, whether to, you know, traverse at rapid speed, you know, turn the machine on, what process. It's G&M code. It's a process that basically communicates with the CNC controller and produces the motion. So you draw your part, create a toolpath, and then produce, you know, the set outcome with the motion or command. So you cannot skip any one of those steps, but any of our software packages have the ability to help you through the progression and do a lot of the things for you, but you still have to make that general progression. So, you know, a lot of times what we see is, as long as you choose the correct material, the correct consumables, and do it the correct way, it's exceptionally easy. We just have a lot of guys that kind of, you know, incorrect consumables will produce incorrect results, and then they struggle. But it is a very, very, very simple process. You can also use external CAD programs, such as like SolidWorks, Fusion 360, Autodesk, anything like that to produce the said part you want. You can draw it in 3D space, mesh it together. For instance, we draw all of our machines in SolidWorks 3D World, and it allows us to get our fit and finish correct. Normally the first time, obviously in manufacturing, nothing is perfect. So we do have to do, second revision, maybe a third, but it's a very simple process once you actually get your feet wet in it.
Yeah, I was going to say, no doubt there is something to learn if you've never done something like this before, but this isn't something that really should be daunting to anybody. I mean, it's just a matter of sort of getting in there and getting your hands wet a little bit, a couple of mistakes along the way, but then you're just up and running, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've got, full-time tech support guys. We'll put guys on the road, if the customer requests, we will install the machine, do a week of training or a couple of days of training. We've got, some companies that the machine operator will essentially leave. So then we'll come back in there and train a new operator. We've got online videos, we've got remote tech support. We've got a lot of different, avenues to help, facilitate the use of the machine. All of our training videos are available on YouTube or our website. So it walks you through everything you need to do. It is very simple, and it's a very, very easy process once you start to really, grasp it.
And here's the other part that I think maybe doesn't get talked about a lot, which is really cool. Everything you just talked about is, say I have one, me sitting down, designing my part, designing whatever I want, putting it in. But the community that's out there, if someone's doing something across the country, maybe we're not selling parts to each other, maybe we're swapping files with each other, and what's been built over here across the country I can produce right here at my home, right?
Oh, absolutely. We've got a lot of companies that would have a remote engineer or, a second facility where they would do all their engineering or prototyping, and then they would then send the files, via email, to said production facility. Such as outsourcing and insourcing work. There are a lot of larger companies that actually can't facilitate the work that they do have. So then they will outsource the work to a lot of smaller, fab shops, job shops, and they will then produce their parts that way. It's a very, very slick system. So it's, your work doesn't have to necessarily be local. And a lot of times we'll see guys that are doing things, for companies in Canada, Mexico, even, which is kind of strange, to be producing parts for Mexico and the United States.
Well, even design as well on the CAD part of it. If somebody has a really good employee that can do CAD stuff, they can sell their CAD files as well. So, you got one guy just sitting around doing all artwork all the time. He can put them on and sell them for $25 or something on Etsy or wherever, and people can pull them right off of there and cut them on their machines.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to generate revenue in this industry. It's pretty wide open. So
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, well, let's talk about how does CNC plasma work? Let's dip into the technology here of what you're building.
sure, you bet. So plasma is essentially an electronic arc, like a bolt of lightning produced with a piece of hafnium. So the consumable is essentially struck, and it produces an arc, kind of like arc welding. There is a second way, which is like a high frequency start, where it generates a high voltage, and then the air physically blows it down to the material, and it actually burns the material. It doesn't melt, and you've got different kerf widths for different consumables, different amperages. So there's, it's not a one size fits all, but essentially the arc is struck and it's produced, and then the kerf width is measured, and it is all in cut charts. All the speeds and feeds are taken care of. So all of the data has essentially been done either by us or, the plasma producer, such as Hypotherm or Kelberg. And then we, travel around, usually at a height of about, 150 thou, depending on the material, travels around and burns the material. And then you can always make adjustments to fine tune. But we can, even with a conventional unit, somewhere in that $25,000 to $40,000 range, we can produce parts that are within, 5 thou with a good operator. So.
Wow, that's incredible. How does this differ? Like say when you look at the tables and everything, and if people are familiar at all with them, you see that and you say, okay, well, we've got a CNC plasma table here, and then maybe someone has a water jet table here or something like that. Tell me the difference between the technologies and what works best for what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So water jet is also an amazing product. Water jet can cut, marble, stone, granite, concrete, steel, that kind of thing. It can cut anything. It's an abrasive style cut. It basically takes water with an aggregate and removes the material as so. It's a direct benefit in the aerospace industry, or if you're trying to cut marble. But where plasma really fits in is water jet on a piece of, let's say, 1/4 inch would be going very slow, like 5 inches a minute. We can hit speeds of, depending on the process, 40 or 300 inches a minute, depending on the amperage, if you have a large system. So you can physically produce your parts much quicker, but you do have a little bit of heat temper. But in general, for about 80–90% of the fab work that happens in this country, plasma is still a very viable option. So water jet has its place, plasma has its place. It's definitely, I've heard rates of $1 a minute to operate water jet. Plasma would be, man, I'm just gonna throw out like 10 cents a minute. I don't know. It's a tenth of the cost, and it's much, much quicker. You can really move with plasma compared to water jet.
Yeah, and that is what a massive benefit. And I think the audience that we're talking to, obviously, what we're working with is steel in the auto industry and all of that. And let's go ahead and expand on that. A plasma tape helping out in the auto industry. I know we've touched on a few things here, but what do you say to someone who might meet you at a trade show or might meet you out somewhere and says, "Okay, this is what I do in this particular industry. How can this help me?"
Sure. Yeah, and it's all vindictive of what they actually need to produce for parts, whether it's the size of plate, the size of the thickness of plate, size of the material, their material handling capabilities, whether it's steel, aluminum, because aluminum on a water table, you don't want to do that because it can actually produce hydrogen gas that could cause an explosion. So we would set them up with a downdraft table. We do have a solution for that. But it's all relevant to whatever the customer's needs are and whatever material they're cutting. And if they need a secondary process, like let's say a drill or anything like that. So really, we tailor it according to the customer, and we give the customer, the results that they need off of what they tell us. So I don't know how better to explain that.
No,
unless you have a
that's pretty
specific
much-
example that you're looking to see.
No, it's pretty much, it's tailored to the customer. You got to know their whole process too, because there is a lot of secondary processes on their end after it comes off the plasma table, bending operations, welding, things of that nature. So you have to dive into it with the customer and find exactly what they're doing to make sure they get the right machine and the right accessories to go with that machine. So, with accessories on our tables, you can have a scribe so people can put in their logos, serial numbers, things of that nature. Not everybody will use that, but in the racing industry, you look at some of these chassis and stuff, they have either a welded on tab with their logo on it or somebody scribes it in, so, it all depends on what they're doing. And you really gotta, so like when I talk to a customer, I hammer them with a lot of questions before we even start talking pricing, sizing, anything like that, just so I can have a general idea where to go. And then that leads me, to get them the best machine that they can use.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, I do want to remind you, if you're viewing right now while we're talking live, and if you have a question, please feel free to type it into the chat. We'd love to get out there what you want to know. Chris, this is for you too. And again, we start talking about the racing industry, and I know people want either A, repeatability, or B, the ability to maybe make a few tweaks here, a few tweaks there, and do it in a pretty simple way. But on a whole different level of that, look, there are people who might be racing out there every single week that might own a plumbing company or might do this or might do that. Like, someone out there who wants something for their racing, but how it also benefits the type of company that they own is completely outside of the sport. You ever run into that?
Oh yeah, we have a couple customers like that. We have a really good customer that we actually met at PRI our first year there, and he's a big drag racer, but he also owns an HVAC company. So he wanted to bring a plasma table in to ramp up his HVAC business, but then at the same time, he's making specialty parts for all his dragsters and stuff. So yeah, it goes hand in hand pretty well.
It definitely seems like people in the automotive racing industry are a lot more blue collar type than most industries. So we have a lot of crossover where we'll go to PRI, but we'll actually sell a lot of machines to a specific industry. But guys that run cars or car guys are definitely blue collar guys for the most part. So
yeah, and I could see where that makes sense, and in what you're doing with your Monday through Friday versus what you're doing on your Saturday and Sunday as well. We do have a question from the chat, wondering if you're going to have a display at FabTech in October.
FabTech down in Orlando, is that correct?
Yeah, we will not be at FabTech. We will be there, walking around, networking a little bit, talking to people. So we're always with our Boss Table shirts on. So if anybody ever sees us, they can come talk to us. But Fab Tech is a hard one to get into. So we're still trying to get into it. I think next year is our probably best shot to get there now that our production line has increased with bigger models to kind of show Fab Tech what we have. A few years ago, our tables probably weren't really the best to go to that kind of trade show. But now that we have the bigger HD units and the elite tables and things of that nature, now it's more beneficial for us to show up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's talk. You talked about pricing a little bit earlier. Let's talk about the difference and the pricing model as well. Where Boss Tables really sets itself apart.
Sure. So as far as the pricing goes, compared to our competitors, is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah. It just, really like it's great exploring what you guys have out there on the website, and you talking about gantry heights and different things like that, and a lot of the features that you have. But like, we were talking earlier, you've got product lines from the MVP to the HD Elite and everything in between, some with different features than others and so on and so forth. So how does that all fit in?
Sure. So the MVP line is our introductory line. Power Max series, it runs Halo as a controller, Linux-based system, very stable, works exceptionally well, very simple. And then we move on to the WHC, which is also the Halo controller. The WHC, the difference between the MVP and the WHC, which stands for water height control. So the MVP is basically a tray, right? The water sits in there. The WHC, you're able to physically drain the water into a lower tank. That's all self-contained, just pneumatically. There's no filters, there's no pumps. It's very, very, very simple. You need air to operate your plasma anyways, so it just fits naturally. So we can drain, 300 gallons in about 2.5 minutes and on a 5x10 table, and actually fill the table back up in about 60 seconds. So it moves a ton of water. It's exceptionally quick. So the WHC and the WHC Pro are the same chassis, but the Pro runs Flash Cut or ATEC as a controller. Then what happens then is the software becomes much more user-friendly, much more, beneficial. It does a lot more things for you. There's nothing, that the Halo controller cannot do, but you physically have to do more to facilitate the cut versus ATEC and Flash Cut. They do a lot more things for you, with design work and CAD work all in one inclusive package. And then from there, so the WHC and the WHC Pro are the same chassis. We then move to the HD chassis. And what that is a bigger water tank to facilitate like a 200 amp system. So everything that I just talked about before is all 85 or 125 amp and down, which would be the Power Max series. And then once we get into the HD, HD downdraft, the HD or the HD Elite, those three models, there's physically more water, and the table is designed to physically carry more weight, thousands and thousands of pounds to produce, thicker plate work. And, so on that line, the HD on up, we run ATEC, which is an industrial software to facilitate that. That would be the Max Pro 200, Smart Focus series, the 200, 300, 400 amp, the XPR line, HPR line, that kind of thing. So from there, we get into a lot more larger industrial customers that would do, heavy plate work. So.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the construction of the tables, I love the fact that you've got a Jeep parked right across two of these, and it shows the quality of the product you have.
Yeah, the Humvee. Yeah, that was a project that never got completed. So yeah, but it got us a good picture, so at least we made some out of the Humvee.
Yeah. Well, that just shows that the strength of our tables and how they're built, because there is a lot of tables out there that you couldn't do something like that with, because they're not a fully welded table. Ours are all fully welded from top to bottom, so that's where you can gain that heavy material to sit on. And even our MVP line, we tried to compete with some of those lighter end tables, but they're still a fully welded together table, so you can still support it with a good sheet of material.
We got guys putting 2-inch on an MVP.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
It
pretty
works.
impressive. Uh, and again, look, I mean, you guys are right here in Iowa, and using a lot of American products as well. But you're definitely using the best products also. Let's talk about the gantry system and what really makes this thing move around and work. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we've got size 30 millimeter rails on it. We've got German made precision gear rack, helical cut. The helical runs much smoother than a traditional standard straight cut. The gear engagement, from cog to cog is much smoother. This machine has an aluminum gantry, size 30 rails on it as well. That's actually the size 30 rail it's a very large rail for what the industry is doing. But yeah, we've got size 25 on our Z-axis. So I mean, it's a very simple machine that we build. We source, Nidex Schimple gearboxes, AC servo motors. It's a very simple machine. We've simplified a lot of it. We use, twisted pair, double shielded wire to combat noise. It's a very industrial machine, and that's all the same from top to bottom. Whether it's our HD Elite or the MVP, it still has Nidex Schimple gearboxes, still has a German-made gear rack. It's just a different configuration and a much more, precise and heavy-duty version. But essentially, from top to bottom, depending on the process, if it's just plasma with comparable power units, our Elite and our MVP will still cut the same. So,
And they're all direct drive. So there's no chains, belts, pulleys, or anything like that, which helps out tremendously for the duration of the table, the longevity of the table. So you don't have to worry about anything really wearing out, because you know how it is with, you run a car 170,000 miles, timing chain starts to loosen up, you start having problems. That's the same thing with the plasma dribble. That will happen just like that. So then that will transfer into your cuts on the table, where you see that slag or the, what do you want to call it, the stretching of the belts and cables and everything. So being all direct drive, that eliminates all that. Makes it a lot smoother, run better, quieter, the whole 9 yards. For sure.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. The other thing too, while we're talking about longevity, one thing that I love that you say, we're dedicated to supporting you throughout the lifespan of your table, ensuring your satisfaction and success in bringing your visions to life. I mean, this isn't just a purchase, it's a partnership, right?
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, our main focus is to keep our machines running. We have a very low failure rate, 1%, if that,
yeah.
and usually it's something silly. But our number one focus is to make sure our machines run, because our best salesman is our customer. So that is a stone cold fact that, that I kind of beat into everybody's head around here. So yeah,
And you know how it is. You're going to have issues along the way, just from simple stuff that just might break, a wire comes loose, something like that. Yeah, we want our machines to run, but we also want to make sure there's people on the back end that answer that phone when they call with that problem. That's where we strive there as well, is making sure they can always get a tech person. If our 2 tech guys are out on the road, if they're busy, our general manager will pick up the phone and talk to them, and then Travis will talk to them as well. So, and it's, you call right in, you'll talk to them. It's not take a number, we'll call you back when you're next in line. It's no, you call, you're going to talk to somebody. We're going to get it resolved, because for one, when you're in a business, you're trying to make money. If that machine's down, you're not making money. So as soon as it goes down, we try to do the best we can, as fast as we can, to get you back up and running.
absolutely. And all of our cell phone numbers are right on the website on the contact page, so we're not trying to hide. So we're available.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here to help. So, and usually, honestly, usually what it is a customer just makes a mistake in the setup, in the wrong consumables, and it's a silly mistake, and it's a 5-minute phone call, and they're like, oh, all right, thanks, see you later, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, but you're back up and running, which is a great thing. And that's the other thing too. Hey, you say if the machine's down, you're not making money. Well, that's a very minimal thing. But with the machine, you are making money. So let's talk about CNC plasma taking business and your racing and whatever it might be to the next level. What can you tell us?
what can I tell you about the progression of how to make money with the table?
Yeah, or just
the biggest
right. Go ahead.
the biggest thing is the biggest thing is just to actually use it and present yourself out there. Go to other manufacturers, go to people that would potentially have a need, knock on their door and ask them if they need help. And a lot of times They do, because they struggle to find employees. If you can offer a service that, fits a niche that they need, you're a shoo-in. So it's basically just presenting yourself, bringing cut samples to the person, be like, hey, do you need this? And a lot of times, people are behind, they can't find employees. They may even have their own plasma table, but they don't have an operator for it. We've seen that quite a bit where people are outsourcing work, an entrepreneur or somebody that's got some motivation can get in there and start producing parts. So the biggest thing is just to put yourself out there and make sure you know what you're doing, get a little bit of training, figure it out, and then go to anybody you think that would need your help. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that simple on the racing side of things too, because we have a very well-known Xfinity race car driver that has one of our tables that he does to make race car bodies and stuff with. Then we have a couple local guys that do race car bodies and things of that nature. So especially more on the local end of that, a lot of dirt track guys, are all in the same community for the most part. So if there's one guy that has a plasma table that can cut out a side panel or a hood scoop or something because they got in a wreck on Saturday night, they can do it, that day, they can have it to them, and that guy's ready to race the next night. So that's a big thing too.
We've got quite a few chassis builders too.
Yeah, we got chassis builders. Yep. And I've talked to a lot of chassis builders at trade shows that are looking to get one or upgrade from the one they have. And there's some big ones, especially in the late model world. So,
well, speaking of chassis builders, we have an addition that you can add on the machine to cut tube. So you can mark, notch, fish mouth, whatever you need to do. You can design the tube on the program and then physically cut it as well on the same machine. And also too, we're building a standalone machine for guys that are a more high volume tube production, roll cages, that kind of thing. So we're and we'll have the ability to bevel on that as well. And, run a marker and scribe. So that machine will be pretty quick. I'd say 6 months. Yeah, 6 months that'll be out. So
Wow.
we're always trying new stuff. So if you have anything that you want us to build, we might take a stab at it too.
Well, but here's the other thing too. The one thing that has the most value is time, because it's something that you can't ever get back. I mean, it's just constantly moving. And that's the other thing I think to myself when you're talking about the guy who wrecks his car and, needs a hood scoop cut out, or you're talking about, building chassis or doing this and having the repeatability, time. If I have a Boss table and now all of a sudden I'm starting to use that, or things that I was hand fabricating, now I've got that time back. When I'm using this table, how much of it is, okay, I get everything all set up, I push start and get it going. Does that now free me up to still be in the shop doing other things while this is working?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I personally, I don't know how we ever built the first table by hand. Like, I have no idea. It's such a struggle to, do things by hand, and a guy gets so jaded. And, I mean, if I cringe about getting the idea of a grinder out or a hand plasma to try and cut apart or drill a hole, because you can cut a hole, a 1-inch hole or a 1/2-inch hole with a plasma in like 5 seconds. But using a 1/2-inch twist bit, I couldn't, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
No.
and I think the repeatability is the biggest one. That's the big one, because you're going to get the same part every time you cut it. Where in hand cutting, you're not going to get that. Yep. And in the racing industry, if you can run off 25, wheel spacers or something, they're all going to be the same thickness. They're all going to be the same tolerance. That way, every time you pull one off the shelf, it's ready to go. If you're trying to do that with hand, it's not going to fly. So the repeatability is, I think, the big thing, especially in a racing industry.
Yeah, repeatability and time.
Yep.
So
yeah,
it's an ultimate time saver. A lot of our customers go, I can't believe I even started in this industry without a plasma table. It's so efficient.
Yeah, that's what I love. The conveniences that you don't realize, like how could we get anywhere now without having a GPS on our phone? But to me, I look at it as something like this. But Chris, it's amazing because you keep mentioning different parts literally along the way through this conversation, from clutch plates to spacers to this to that. And I know I brought it up earlier, but to me, I can't hesitate. I can't say it enough, because the price of this table versus what ultimately you're going to save, even if you're just doing something for yourself, to me just seems like it's literally Yes, some money out front and a money saver over the next several years because now you're just doing everything for yourself. You're not waiting on someone else. You're not paying their upcharge and all of that. That to me is just an incredible value.
Yeah, when you don't have to wait on anybody is a big thing. You know, when you can just go, hey, I'm gonna go out here and cut this part out so I have it, or just R&D. Because, you know, even, you know, some of the race car guys, the local guys, if they have one, they'll mess around on the plasma table just to see if they can find, you know, 1,000th of a second on the racetrack by creating their own part. You know what I mean? So they can just mess around with it. You know, our systems, you're able to have it on a laptop computer, so they can be sitting on a house, you know, in the house on the couch, and something pops in their head. They can design it real quick and then send it out to the machine, you know, the next day and cut it out. So it's just ease of use on them, and then being able just to come up with something real quick, figure it out, cut it out, and try it where you're not out much. You know, if you wanted to, you know, if I came up with something and I didn't have a plasma table, now I got to contact somebody that does, have them draw it for me, get charged a design fee, then wait 2 or 3 weeks before I get it to see if it even works. You know, so that's where that comes into play. Having one with that saves you a lot of money and time right there.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a leg up on the competition because of what I can do for myself. All right, you guys were talking earlier about you know, new tables coming up, different things like that, cutting tubing and all of that. What does the future hold for Boss Tables?
Oh, yeah, we've got, you know, those projects to finish. We're working with ATEC to do actual machining. So we would essentially have a plasma oxy-fuel machining center, 16 dot inkjet marking. The partnership with them will drastically expand our capabilities and allow us to do, you know, much, much more. So what else is there? Dot painting.
Yeah.
Dot painting. So instead of actually scribing and etching in, it'll tap in, you know, logos, part numbers, anything like that. You know, bevel cutting. And then from there, we want to work with ATEC and move into lasers. So we hope to build or we will be building a USA built, USA made controller and a USA supported laser for the middle market industry as a way to try and stop, well, probably won't be able to stop them, but we'll be a direct competitor with a lot of the Chinese lasers. So that's
Wow.
really my ultimate end goal, is to get to that point. So, and we're headed there fairly rapidly. I would think within a year and a half or 2 years, we'd have a sellable product. So
That's really cool. I just out of curiosity, what, you know, where do lasers come in? Is it a more precision? Is it, you know, what works with that?
well, lasers, their fiber lasers are dropping in price, and they're still, you know, a six-figure machine or about a $200,000 to $400,000 machine. But what they do is they're faster. So 1/4 inch and down in, you know, mild steel, aluminum, they're more precise and they're faster with a comparable cost of operation, but you can do more. Plasma, looking forward in the industry, is kind of more of a, you know, a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Because we can take for $40,000 and cut 1-inch steel, and we can still do 16 gauge. Whereas you're going to spend a couple 100,000, 300,000 somewhere north or whatever, and you're going to be doing, you know, 1/4, maybe 3/8. You know, so the cost of the barrier to input with laser is definitely cost, versus plasma is just, I mean, hell, you can about do anything you want with it. You can cut, we've got people cut copper and brass and all sorts of material. So anything that's metal, it'll basically cut it. So we just might have to do a few little tweaks, but we always get it. So
That's what I like. Yeah. What is the process if you would describe? You know, let's just say, Chris, I'm calling you and I'm saying, okay, I'm interested. Here's what I have. Like you said, you know, your first question in sales is to find out what the customer's need is. But what is the process like?
It's fairly simple. You know, when they call us, you know, we have multiple avenues for to generate leads and everything. But once we get in contact with them, we just try to find a little bit more about what their business is and you know, what they're going to be doing. You know, and I sometimes spend an hour on the phone with one customer. Just, you know, they're telling me their whole backstory and what they're doing and where they're going and if they're going to expand or anything like that. So it's a fairly simple process. Once we find out what they want and what machine we're going to go after, I just make them a quote, send it over to them, email it to them, have them look it over, and then that way they can, usually they have to take it up to their higher up. So it'll be a couple days or a week before they get back to you. Then there'll be more questions involved and everything. And then we always welcome everybody to come into our shop at any time to look at the product, put their hands on it. We'll cut parts for them, you know, that way they can actually see the physical being of it, you know. And once they see it and they look at the finished product, they go back and then they make a decision, and that's about it. So it's a pretty simple process, really.
Well, I mean, expanding on the process, we would send the customer multiple quotes. Once it's accepted, we would do 50% down.
Yeah,
We would then build the entire machine. Usually our current lead time is 4 to 6 weeks. Is that true?
10 weeks.
10 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. We're busy. So, so our lead time is 10 weeks. Once the machine is finished, we require payment, and then we would either deliver, ship, install, you know, do delivery training, whatever the customer, you know, physically wanted. On a lot of our, you know, introductory machines, smaller machines, they're very simple. We have a ton of YouTube videos. A guy normally can figure it out within 2 or 3 hours. You know, and we're always there to video chat or, you know, on the phone, whatever it takes to facilitate if a customer doesn't want to pay for delivery and training. Our more industrial machines, we do the delivery and training flat out. We're not letting people install them because there's just too many wires and too many hoses. So we take care of that. We make sure everything's perfect when we leave. And then we're, you know, we need to follow back up.
Yeah, make
You know,
sure
no big
everything's
deal.
working
So-
right.
So
That's
pretty
nice.
simple process.
Yeah. And Travis, forgive me for not asking earlier, but you guys are literally sitting there right in the shop. Can you give us a quick little demo?
Oh yeah, of the machine running? Absolutely.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So. See the screen?
I'm gonna move the computer.
So essentially, all the guy's got to do is I can just draw, you know, a quick little part here, square with a circle. You know, you can choose the diameter to be whatever you want it to be, and you can also click and drag and change and edit. There's pre-programmed parts there. You can import in images. There's a whole slew of things. You can add text. You can bridge text. But essentially, so this is CAD, and then once I shove it over into CAM, it automatically creates a toolpath. And in the toolpath, I would choose my material, which is 10 gauge. I would choose, you know, what consumables I'm using. 45 amp cartridge on a PowerMax sink, 85. Common misconception is that, you know, you run your 85 at 85 amps at all times. That is incorrect. We run it at whatever cartridge we choose. And that is directly driven off of the material size. So for instance, 45 is good up till 1/4 inch, 65 works well at 1/2 inch, 85 works well at 3/4 of an inch. That would be your glass ceiling for those. I would then send that part over into CNC. And I need to physically move this guy actually, because my home area is over here. I would send him into CNC, and then I would drive the machine. Do you want to show the machine, Chris, the best you can? I would then drive the machine over. I would get it to the material, wherever I would like my parts to be nested. And then I would set my start point, and I can drive it around and physically make sure it's going to fit, which it's not, so I'll move again. So I can just set my part, and then I'll drive it around, make sure that it's going to fit in this location. If I need to move again, sorry. And then I would hit the run button.
That's pretty cool. And a nice, perfect square.
Yeah, square with a circle.
Ha, that's awesome. And that's simple. Like when you were saying earlier, hey, I need to drill a hole and do this. I'll just throw it on the CNC. I mean, it's literally that quick to set up what you want to do and just do it.
Oh yeah, it's super efficient. We've got an extended height on our gantry, so we'll put square tubing in there, cut notches in it. We've had guys build, custom shelving, racking, that kind of thing. Anything that you can fit under there, I-beams, C-channel, we'll cut a profile into it. We've got guys that build undercarriages for rail cars. We built them a custom table with an extended 20-inch gantry, so they could put rail car parts under it and cut features into that. So it's almost endless possibilities for what you could do with a machine like this.
Yeah, and pretty much a benefit everywhere. I'll tell you what, you guys have just been awesome. And Travis and Chris, we can't thank you enough for showing us what you do with Boss Tables, and really looking forward to seeing what the future holds as well.
Thanks for having us on here. It's pretty cool.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Great session. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the Portrait platform, distributed through our newsletters and social media channels. We pushed Boss Tables back on the homepage of ePortrait. For more information and updates, please visit ePortrait.com. Next webinar will be on engine management system with Haltech. Thank you and goodbye.
ePortrait is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
ePortrait, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
ePortrait really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
Where will you find Fabricators racing components? Circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop. In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Fabricators Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.